This was a statement race by Eli Tomac.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. You know what? Normally I start these off with some news, like new cool motorcycles or prototypes or crazy laws, things like that. But this week I'm going to jump right into Supercross, and we're going to save the news stories for the end of the video. So last weekend we were in Arlington, Texas, and I'll be honest, I'm a bit concerned, or I was a bit concerned, because the previous round Eli had a great race and took the points lead for the championship. So now he's got the red background on his number plate, which indicates he's the points leader. And historically, this is a point where Eli tends to choke and make big mistakes and lose lots of points to his competition. So he did not do that. He got great starts and was fairly dominant all night long. Now, this past weekend was Arlington, Texas. That was a Triple Crown event. And again, I'm gonna go through it because I think the people that design this stuff are idiots and they make it so complicated.
I think the system is so damn confusing as it is. I think adding a point, you know, it'd be we're all homeschooled, so we're probably not that good at math.
A Triple Crown event happens 3 times a season, and they do 3 main events instead of 1 main event, right? So normally you have 2 heat races and then a last chance qualifier. And out of the heat race, they take, I think, like the top 9. So you get 18 riders. You do heat 1, heat 2. You've got 18 riders on the gate for the main event. And then I think out of the last chance qualifier, they take 4. So that gives you 22 riders for the main event race. Everybody else, sorry, go home, try again next weekend. And they do that for both, I think, the 250s and the 450s. I think it's the same numbers. You know, I'm fuzzy on the numbers because they've changed it numerous times over the years, and it is what it is. But I'm pretty sure it's like 9, 9, and then 4, which gives you 22. Now, the reason I think that these are stupid is because I believe that the Supercross format, the racing format, round by round, is already complicated for the casual observer, right? The person that goes out to your monster truck rally races, you know, they're not necessarily a big enthusiast. They just like to go to sporting events. It's something to do. They enjoy watching close racing, but maybe they don't own motorcycles, or they don't race motocross or supercross, or whatever the case is. For people that kind of fall into that category, it's super complicated. It's hard to keep track of what's going on. And then on top of that, they do these Triple Crowns. So, like, you know, it's already complicated, and then 3 times a season, let's make it more complicated and harder to follow. Now, the upside to these Triple Crown events is, as a fan, there's more gate drops. You get to see more racing. As a rider, if you're not a good, consistent starter, you hate Triple Crowns because 3 main events means you have to go through 3 gate drops. You have to go through turn 1 with all the other guys on the gate 3 times a night instead of once a night. So if you're a good starter and you're good at getting out early, you like Triple Crown events because the main events are shorter and there's more of them, right? So if you can get a good start and sprint for, you know, a handful of laps, you're probably gonna fare pretty good. But if you're the kind of guy that doesn't always get good starts and your strong point is you get faster as the race goes on and you're in great shape and you want a longer race, you hate Triple Crowns. Last weekend, Eli Tomac had a pretty dominating night and took over the points lead. He is now the series points leader, which is why he's got the red background on his number plates. And Eli Tomac falls into the category of not a great starter, or at least not a consistent starter, and great fitness gets stronger the longer the race goes on. And that's the opposite of what you want for a Triple Crown event. So, and historically, Eli Tomac has choked at this point in the series. Whether he gets the points lead or not, it's just that time of year where he just tends to make some big mistakes and gives up way too many points and just digs himself into this big hole or deficit. So let's take a look at, again, it's Triple Crown, so there's 3 main events. Let's look at main event 1. Eli gets a horrible start, and so right now at this point I'm watching the race, I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. But 13th around turn 1, he does ride really well despite the poor start and works his way all the way up to 5th. So Still got some hope. 2 more main events to go. Anything can happen. Hoping he gets a better start. All right, race number 2. Eli gets a way better start. Takes the lead pretty early before the end of the first lap. Checks out. That's pretty much the end of it, man. The race is over as far as Eli is concerned. He checks out and he's gone. Lights out to the competition. Before we take a look at main event number 3, let's skip ahead to the post-race conference and we'll come back to race number 3. But here's Eli's response to a reporter asking the question, hey, you're doing better at these Triple Crowns. Are you starting to like them? No.
You got your 4th Triple Crown win. I have a feeling you're starting to like these Triple Crown races.
On paper, they look good, but I still don't like them. I don't like the 3 motos. It's just chaos. I don't like it. 3 of those first turns, the first straightaways, I might be, or maybe sound like a sissy, but I do not like them.
So in race number 3, Eli gets another pretty crappy start. So, I mean, let's look at the starts. I think he went 13, 2 or 3 in the second race off the gate into turn 1. And then in the third race, I think he's around 10th place. So 10th, 13th, and a top 3 start. I'm not a mathematician or anything, but 33% of the time he gets a good start. That means 66.9% of the time he gets a crappy start. That's not good. So I really think race 3 was the beginning of the end of the championship for everybody else. Eli Tomac, despite his 10th place mid-pack start, all of his competition, all the best dudes are in front of him, and he catches all of them, passes all of them, makes his way to the front, and wins the race with the red plate on his shoulders. So this was a huge statement race for Eli Tomac. He just basically put it to everybody else in the championship. He's like, you know what? I'm not choking this year. I'm going to take it all the way to the end. And for him to be able to ride and win from behind and have to pass Ken Roxon, Zach Osborne, Jason Anderson. Now, I'll give you this, you had Adam Cicerillo and, what's the other dude's name? Cooper Webb. They both crashed out in practice in their heat races, so they weren't there for the heat races. It's a Triple Crown. We don't do heat races. See, even I can't keep it straight. Seriously, though, I really believe it's lights out. I mean, the boy, Eli Tomac, he's got to be so full of confidence now. This is the best consistent year he's ever had. He's withstood all of the pressure so far, and I really believe that it's pretty much downhill from here on out. He's got a few rounds ahead of him. We're still in the middle of the season. There's still lots of racing. Anything can happen. But out of the next 7 or whatever rounds we have left, he's got 3 or 4 that are really dominant rounds for him. Daytona, Denver, Las Vegas, he always does really good at. So it's just not looking good for the rest of the competition. I really think Ken Roxon's the only one that kind of still poses a threat to Eli Tomac. He's the only one that he really still needs to beat week in and week out at this point in the championship. All right, guys, that's enough racing, man. Let's jump into some news. So this is a huge story just from a statement perspective. So Triumph has announced that they are going to move their last remaining manufacturing plants in the UK to Thailand, I believe it is. So 100% of their mass volume manufacturing will be done outside of the UK. And I say this is a big deal because Triumph is a huge name that's been around for a very long time. And it's kind of like Harley Davidson here in the United States. If Harley Davidson moved 100% of their volume manufacturing overseas, as a consumer, you probably wouldn't see a difference. But just the fact that this prideful manufacturer, who, in my opinion, doesn't really sell motorcycles, and I'll come back to that in a second. But the fact that they would produce 100% of at least their volume manufacturing, and by volume I mean, Triumph has announced that they're still going to be doing R&D in the UK. They'll still be producing some bikes in the UK, but the mass amount of bikes that are going to hit the market for sale will be produced outside of the UK. And I don't know, I just feel like that's a huge statement. And as a consumer in the UK and around the world, you're probably not going to notice a big difference. And if you notice any difference, you'll see more Triumphs hitting the market all around the world. But just the idea of it, the idea of a brand, a United Kingdom brand like Triumph being made, for the most part, 100% in other countries, it doesn't feel right. And it's the analogy of Harley Davidson. It just wouldn't feel right. And I've never even owned a Harley. I don't know that I ever will own a Harley. But if you told me, being an American growing up in the United States, that Harley Davidson doesn't manufacture bikes in the United States, it just doesn't feel right, doesn't sound right. It's just strange to me. Now this is super cool. This is an Indian Scout, I believe. Clearly heavily modified for ice racing. Look at the spikes in the rear tire. If you look down at the bottom, you can see some spikes in the front tire. Most of the front tire is covered by the aerodynamic fairings, but you can see just a little bit. Those are some heavy duty spikes, man. Could you imagine if you crashed and somehow got thrown over the handlebars and the bike chases you down and runs over you? Oh, that would be so bad. But seriously, man, Indian Scouts, you know, if I was gonna get a cruiser kind of bike, Indian Scout would be at the top. The only other bike I would seriously consider, other than something completely custom, would be a V-Rod, which isn't manufactured anymore. It hasn't been manufactured for going on 3 years now. But the V-Rod, and man, I love the way the Indian Scout looks. It's a cruiser, but it's got an aggressive stance. The lines flow and it just looks fast standing still. Thanks for watching, guys. That's all I got for this weekly recap. Supercross is headed to Atlanta, Georgia in a couple days. World Superbike round 1. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see Ray and the rest of the field. And Scott Redding, I think, has moved out of British Superbike Series into World. Anyway, lots of cool stuff happening this weekend. And thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Share the video, like the video, dislike the video, whatever. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.